Hey guys, I'm just prepping a few materials and then we're going to be making a spring wreath today. Just going to give it a minute and then we'll get started. Hey Judy, how are you? Who else do we have? We have Deb, nice to see you. Carolyn, how are you, my friend? So I realized that I've been doing tutorials on centerpieces recently, and I just wanted to kind of get back to my roots, which is to make a beautiful spring wreath. And some of the materials that we're going to be using today are the same that are in our upcoming workshop, just in case anybody's interested. And also, yesterday we celebrated our 5th year since I started Enchanted Vines. So I'm offering 10% off anything on the site, including our workshop tickets, and that ends tonight. So it just shows what kind of Valentine's Day I had 5 years ago that I decided to open up a business. Couldn't have been that spicy. All right. So whenever I go to start a wreath, the first thing I do is that I use this thick twine, and it's made to look like the grapevine. So what I always do, because we're going to make a loop out of this, is I find a nice sturdy part of my wreath. So we're going to go with this guy right here, and I'm going to feed this through and just make a little loop. All right, Josh, my wonderful child. Not really, but really. So, okay, so once this loop is on, I always like to mark it with a ribbon because it does disappear so quickly. So I'm going to hang it by that loop. Look at this adorable ribbon I got the other day. It's little leaves. So I'm just going to snip off a piece of this. And I'm going to mark our loop so that we can find it. Okay? Just like that. Now we're going to dive right in. I'm going to move the camera so that it is focused on the wreath. And I'm going to start with my greenery. I always like to establish the parameters of my wreath with the greenery. So we're going to start up here. And some of this changes a little bit, but it's a nice guide to have. Okay, and today we're going to be doing a crescent wreath, which is where we have one side exposed and one side covered. And I'm starting with these ficus leaves. I really like these. They're very inexpensive. One branch costs about $1, and I cut them into 4 pieces. So as you can see, we're filling this right out. This one in here. And we want them kind of going like a little bit wild, as they would in nature. All right, so this is our starting point. Now we're gonna go in with our focal flowers, and for that I'm using these gorgeous pink peonies, or I'm sorry, hydrangeas. And on these, I don't want the leaves because it's just gonna interfere, so I'm gonna pull these off. I'm gonna save these and repurpose them for something else. Oh, thank you, Judy. You can do a workshop. I've never forced somebody to do a workshop, but you're going to be the first. Sorry, lady. It's just how it's going to go. All right. And I don't use a glue gun. I use a glue pot. So what I'm doing is I'm going to dip my stem in, and I'm going to push it in about 1 inch, okay? And I'm going to try and have it catch in between the branches of the grapevine. Okay, like so. Then we're going to repeat that step. And one's kind of pointed inward, so I want the second one to point outward a little bit. Okay? Then we're going to go in with some smaller flowers. So for this, we're going to be using our cabbage roses, which these are like this really nice soft pink. Put some of these up. These are from Pioneer, which are my fave. And so what we're going to be doing with our color combos is we're going to try and recreate what we would find in a New England garden. When I was growing up, my parents always spent a lot of time with their planting in their gardens. And so I just kind of have it in me that I love flowers. They do make me happy. I know that's corny, but it's true. All right. I'm going to go underneath here. Now, if you know me, I am super OCD. So whenever, if you do a workshop with me or whenever I'm designing, you'll notice that I like to mirror everything. Otherwise, it just like, I need to scratch that OCD itch. So that is one thing that I like to do. I don't like everything to look too unnatural, but I definitely want things to be symmetrical. So just throwing that in there. I will get my face out of there. Now we're going to want to break this up with some bright colors, so I'm going to introduce some purple. It's kind of like a purple berry color. All right, so I'm going to be putting one behind here. So now we're going to mirror that, and I'm going to put one underneath this guy here. And then I always like my edges to have something with a little bit of detail. So we're going to take a big bloom and a small bloom, and we're going to group them. Okay, do that. And then this is kind of like a little recipe. So I'm going to have the smaller one going a little bit further out, like so. Sometimes it takes a sec while the glue is setting. This glue is very, very hot, so it takes a minute to cool down. All right, then we're going to go and we're going to repeat that at the bottom. So we're going to have our larger bloom on the outside, and then our smaller bloom facing inward. Is my big head like in the way? I can't tell. All right, and because it's spring, we always want some like bright pops of color. So I feel like this is like the year of ranunculus. So we're going to go in with this beautiful golden ranunculus. And we're going to start breaking up some of these like colors, okay? These are like our disruptors. So I'm going to use these a little bit sparingly. I don't want them to overtake our general aesthetic, but I also don't want this to be too monochromatic. We're going to go in with some of these pretty pink ranunculus. And what I do with, if you have foliage down here, you can just push it up. My favorite type of flowers do have foliage that you can manipulate. All right, so we're gonna go in with these now, and I think I'm gonna pair these with our yellow ranunculus. That looks cute. And whenever we're designing, we don't want anything too crammed in. We want there to be space in between. When people cram things in, it kind of gives it that like stressed feel. So now you can see like in a matter of minutes, this wreath is really coming together. So taking a step back, you know, we have a hole here and a hole here. So I'm going to go in with this, ooh, what's this called? I know what this is called. Lilac. All right, so let's put one of these lilacs up here. No, actually, let's have this be our trailing flower. Oh, I love that. So I don't know about ranunculus, but I feel like the rest of these things are all true to New England gardens. Or I could just be making that up. I don't know. Don't fact check it. Let's just go with it. I hope everyone is enjoying the extra sunshine we're getting, because I sure missed it. It is making me feel confident that spring is coming very soon. Although I have not done my spring wreath yet, I did like a transitional one, which is just really greenery. It's actually a lot of ficus leaves and magnolia leaves. Nothing special, but she does the trick. All right. So taking a step back and looking at any areas that are lacking, there's definitely a piece of tall greenery missing here. So I'm going to grab a piece of my foliage. Put that in. And there'll be glue strings on here, but at the end we're going to go over it with a hot dryer and we'll take care of that. All right. Now we're going to start with our texture. So I'm going to use this eucalyptus bush, and what I like to do with them, just to give it that like real garden feel, is I like for greenery or anything with, you know, vines to be like interrupting the space in between the flowers. Because if you looked at an English garden, it wouldn't just be all flowers. You're going to have a lot of greenery. So this is really pretty. Again, I like all the things that you can manipulate by pushing them up the stems. And I'm horrible at reading any type of comment or even seeing who is watching, because I'm just not a great multitasker. So if ever you do have a question about something you see on a live, I usually repost it, and you could ask there, or you could just message me. All right, so see how this is kind of breaking that up beautifully? And I always like to do a lot of texture where the focal point is. And the beauty of texture is it just kind of has your eye linger a little bit longer. It's not this one-dimensional thing. And it also makes it very unique, because something with a lot of texture is probably not something you can make a cookie cutter wreath out of. I also want some of this trailing like that. Pretty. And some of these stems are really long, so at the end we're going to go to the back of our wreath and just trim off anything that's hanging off. We don't want to scratch our doors, or if you're gifting this, you don't want to scratch a friend's door if they just moved into a new home. All right. So is anything missing? And these things are all really malleable. So if you see like a floral head tilted the wrong way, you just go in, and I like manhandle all these things. I'm not for the faint of heart when it comes to designing. So if there's something that isn't right, I like to just go in right then and there and fix it. All right, I'm going to add another ranunculus because we have a little hole down here. So then we're going to go up top and repeat that step so that we have that level of balance that we're trying to achieve. All right. So let's see. What do you guys think? This is a big wreath. You don't always realize, but this is a very full wreath. And it's got a lot of different colors and textures. And something like this is going to totally pop off your door. So, I mean, I'm biased. So, of course, I'm always looking at people's doors and judging them. But there are some that really do make me turn my head. And this is one of them because this has major curb appeal with all the bright flowers. You got those pops of orange, yellow, purple. Those are all going to speak to people. Okay, but we're not done. We're almost done. So the next thing we're going to do is, as you can see, there's a bunch of stems. Now this would just kill the paint on your door. So the first thing that we do, and you can hang that any which way, is we're going to go and we're going to trim all the backs of those stems, okay? Now, because we're trimming the parts of the stems that had the glue, we're going to have to go back and make sure that these are secure. So that's when we're going to use our glue gun. I know some people use glue guns for everything, but when you use a dipping pan, some people use skillets. I use the Surebonder glue pan. It just allows you to do the stuff kind of free-handed. All right. So what we do now is we take our glue gun and we're going to go and cover up all of these parts, all these little nubbins that we left. And then I'm going to take moss and I'm going to cover it up. And this is for two reasons. One is because I'm trying to hide the mechanics. People don't want to look at a bunch of globs of glue on the back of their wreath. Not that people are 100% like checking that out. But if we can avoid it or make it better, then we should. And the other nice thing is when we're doing this, you know, we're basically almost double gluing it. So the wreaths that I make aren't made for just a season. They're made to last for several years. Wreaths aren't cheap. I mean, nothing's cheap anymore, but if you're going to get a wreath, you want to get your money's worth. So you want to make sure it lasts. All right, so the final step, and I'm not going to do it right now because I'm in the house, would be that I spray everything with a Krylon UV protectant. I love that this is crooked because my head is always crooked too, which is why my photos are always crooked. Anyways, that's a story for another time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this wreath and I'm going to spray it with the Krylon UV treatment. And what I like to do is at the beginning of every season and the end of every season, I like to give my wreath a little like once over. I like to steam it. I like to take a hairdryer to get any dust off it. And then I also like to apply the Krylon treatment. And that's just a way to get a lot of use out of your wreath. The spring wreath that I have, this is going to be, I've had it for 4 years. So there's a few things that I tweak on it every year, but in general, the main parts of it have withstood all the elements that we deal with in New England. And as you know, you could easily put up your spring wreath and have it snow. So we have to do things in a way that we know we're going to, have them last. So anyways, this is our spring wreath. I thank anybody who suffered through another live with me. I know they're not my strong suit, but that's what I'm practicing for. And just a reminder that we are celebrating our 5th anniversary. So if you use the promo code Cheers to 5 years, you get 10% off anything on our website, including workshops. And also, one more plug, our workshop was just revamped, and I'm kind of loving it. I'd love to get feedback. I know there's been a few little glitches that people have pointed out to me, so if you do have any time to take a look at it, let me know. And thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.